My name is Sinalo Jafta and I am a wicketkeeper batter for the Protea Women's National Team. Women's sport has actually changed quite a bit from the time I was in high school. I remember for me, the goal was to always get like a bursary to a university for free education because I knew where I'm from, my mom couldn't afford that. And I think I never knew you could actually be professional in cricket back then. And I think the first contracts were signed around about 2014. So I was in uni in 2013. So it's beautiful to see years now. Like I don't have to work to play. I can just wake up and know that I'm a fully professional cricket player. And I remember from a very young age, school holidays, it was always a drag at Grand's house. And the one time on SABC3, I saw Test match cricket. And I think my Kaintini for me was like, I think I can do that. I always thought I'd be a bowler, but there's no chance. And obviously therefore I fell in love with the game, and that's who inspired me up front. And I mean, the likes of Solid Damons from a hockey perspective, I always knew I will kind of go in that path. And then, I mean, I went to Posh because she wasn't Posh. So yeah, it's the beauty of sport, really. My biggest struggles in sport, I won't really say from a male dominance, I'll just say from just funding. I know, like I remember, like especially in hockey, like my mom had to pay like over 20K in order for me to play per season. And that was the brutality of it. And then like when it came to shifting to cricket, I saw that a lot of things were in place for me to perform. And it was a tough decision, but also from a financial backing, it was the easiest choice I could make because one, it took a lot of strain from my mom. And for me, I could just go out there and play sport. I love sport in general. The proudest achievement, I think, is walking out in Newlands for the World Cup final last year. I think no one can ever replace that feeling, and just we couldn't hear ourselves singing the national anthem. And that for me will always be a highlight. Female athletes that I've always looked up to was Sulet Damons, Kasta. I've had the luxury of actually speaking to her, and just her thought processes is like all or nothing mentality. Serena Williams from afar. I've just loved watching them, and they play such different roles in my career. One is playing the sport, the other was just the mentality, and Serena for me was just the authoritativeness and just doing everything because she loves it. I think the perception of women's sport now has been definitely positive. If I just think back, it started actually with the United States women's soccer team, and then from there it was just, then the Lionesses came through, and you just see what the progression of it. And then I mean, like, we've gone fully professional with domestic structure and the international, like, and the national structure. So to just see that girls can now say, I want to play that sport because it's fully professional, for me it's beautiful. So it means more competition and more growth for the sport. I think the advice that I'll give to the person coming up and looking up to me is, yes, you can always use me as a guide, but there's no chance you can be me. Find your way, because that's going to be the best way for you. If you try to implement someone else's ethos, you'll always lose yourself in the long run. And I think just being authentically yourself is the biggest blessing you can have in whatever team environment or position you find yourself in. Yeah. I think it's very important for young athletes to have a role model, is kind of, as I mentioned before, as a guide. Because if you see me from far, you will literally research what I've been doing. So you kind of always implement that line. But I say at some point, you have to go a different direction because we're not the same person. And I think for me, that's really important. And you should never succumb to being me. You must always be whoever you are. How do you go past the biases and stuff? I think for me, it's taken me a long time to kind of say, you know what, you're bound to make mistakes on the field. You're bound to let everyone, but everyone is also allowed their own opinion. Yes, before I took it to heart, but I think now it's more, I always use it as an opportunity to get better. Yes, I'll see the criticism, but also I'll realize that you were never part of the journey to begin with. And I think it's just always sticking to those that are close to you and kind of keep them as like your person that you kind of bounce ideas off, and it's like, listen, am I lacking in this department? I think it's big. My hopes for the future in women's sport, I want a child at 4 years old, 5 years old to be like, I'm going to be a professional cricket player one day. I'm going to be a professional hockey player one day. And whatever they do to that is to that goal. And I look at, I watch a lot of NBA, and I've seen just the progression of players. And the women's basketball now, like, I love the Las Vegas Aces. I really want to watch a game, but I've just seen how being professional and actually taking care of them, they become back-to-back champs. And I think the more you invest, the more you get out of it. I think for me, how athletes can give back to communities, I always have this philosophy: to receive more, you have to give more. I have my own foundation where I kind of give sports bras, which for me is like the basic thing that can take someone's career so far. Because one, with a sports bra, the child has confidence to actually go out there and bowl a ball instead of like saying, I don't think I have the right like stuff on. And I think I'll always be big. If I'm not away on tour, I'll always find ways to actually give back to communities, whereby we could keep in camps or speaking at schools. I'm really big on that. I think to receive more, you always have to give more. I think the media representation has changed massively, because now you're starting to see the good and the bad in media, which is good in general sense. And I mean, now as athletes, we're kind of being held accountable for what we share, what we like. So now we always have to be professional. It's allowed players to be really professional and really stuck to what they do. How to make sports more inclusive is we have to figure out a way to get these kids invested. There's a lot of school holidays, and I think by doing school holidays, you can always have a camp somewhere. Let them, instead of wandering out in the street, let them be exposed. I mean, community outreaches are important, and us as current athletes, we have to be hands-on too, and I think that's the only way we will ever see continuous progression. How my involvement to sports invested in my current game, I think I was coaching actually last weekend, and I was doing like a report. What I wrote down is like literally the checkpoints I have, and now to actually have it down on paper, it's kind of made me realize it's like I coached it, but then I also have to implement it because I'm still a current player, and I think that always having those checkpoints is very important. So what I say, I kind of have to do always. For me, gender equality is always something I'll be really passionate about, but also a lot of things have to be done in order for us to get there. We can't say we want it now, because at the end of the day, how we put ourselves out there is the one thing. And I think what Cricket South Africa has done fantastically well over the last season is like now we're on equal pay with the men when it comes to match fees, and that's something that we've kind of worked really hard for as a team. And the importance is with performance, it'll always be guaranteed in the long run. So for me, the one thing I'll always throw back is, are you doing enough? And yes, you might come back and be like, but Jeff, like we need equality. It's like, but what are we doing as women to empower other women to actually know their worth? At the end of the day, for me, it's all about worth and where we are currently. Yeah, I've had the coaches that have been part of my journey from the beginning. It's a long list, but I'll just give a highlight of all of them. I think in my younger days, they've ensured me to have the belief that I can do it. And I remember majority of my high school coaches, they played a pivotal role in saying, you know what, you can actually be professional. Because my mother wanted me to go the education side of life. But then they were like, listen, if you do the right things, you will make it happen. And then I go to my university coaches, and they were like, maybe you do have a chance. But that maybe kind of pushed me to kind of be like where I am today. And then my current coaches, they've been really patient. And if I look back now, the only thing I can say to all of them is thank you, because I wouldn't be here without them. Yeah, the legacy I want to portray or give out is, no matter how many mistakes you make, you can always come back from them. I mean, I was someone that went to rehab for alcohol 2 years ago, and if you look now, we've walked out of the World Cup final, and I've featured in the majority of the games that the national team has played. I think it's important that it's okay to make mistakes, but it's how you come back from them. It's all about action and not talking the whole time. I think the legacy will always be action, your thoughts.